Good evening, everyone. Everyone hear me? With me tonight, I got Deputy Chief Morrell, the commanding officer of detectives in Queens North, Chief Maloney, Force Investigation, Chief Friesen, the commanding officer of Queens North, and Captain Hall, the commanding officer of 104. Before I begin, I want to remind everyone that the information I'm about to provide is preliminary as the investigation is ongoing. Tonight, at approximately 6:20 p.m., officers from the 104 Precinct in Queens responded to 54-55 64th Street after receiving a call for a 41-year-old male armed with a knife who was inside the house. The caller further stated that the man was a family member and seemed to be hallucinating and destroying the basement. When the uniformed officers arrived at the location, they entered the home and walked down a narrow staircase to the basement where they observed the male and another family member. 4 officers spent approximately 10 minutes speaking to the male, trying to convince him to go to the hospital. He abruptly pulled out a large knife and yelled, "I'm not going back to the hospital." Armed with the knife, the male then lunged towards an officer standing on the staircase. It was at this time one of the officers deployed a taser, striking the male, and almost simultaneously, an additional officer fired 2 rounds from his service weapon, striking the male twice as he continued advancing towards the officer. The male was taken to the hospital and is currently in critical condition. Assistant Chief Friesen has a photo of the knife that the male had.
Hold it up, please.
All right, earlier today, at approximately 10:50 a.m., differing officers from the 104 Precinct responded to an additional call for the same male at this address, and he was removed to the hospital by ambulance because he was hallucinating. He was released from the hospital sometimes earlier this afternoon and returned home with a family member. Additionally, officers responded to the same location on January 6th due to the same male having hallucinations. The body-worn cameras of both officers were activated and have been viewed by myself and members of the Force Investigation Unit. At this moment, I can take any questions. Questions?
So you mentioned that you were here, the department were here 3 times totally in the past month?
3 times in the past week for this location for a male who was having hallucinations and had stated that he had been using crystal meth. And at one point, actually earlier this morning, he said he was contemplating suicide.
When did he say that he was using crystal meth?
This morning he mentioned it. In this visit, they talked about his drug usage, and the officer who actually fired the firearm had previous contact with this individual and knew him. So they were having a conversation for approximately 10 minutes prior to him pulling out the knife.
Anyone else inside the house? Any family member?
There was a family member standing there also in conversation with him with the officers.
Yeah, how were the officers?
The officers were moved to the hospital just for observation. They're fine.
During those previous calls, have any family members ever been brought before?
No, there had been, matter of fact, we viewed the video from earlier this morning. It was not eventful.
When you say he was destroying the basement, what exactly was he doing?
There was stuff as we got in there was thrown around. A banister was knocked off. He was searching around the room for, he said someone was in there looking for him.
Hey, time for one more? Anybody?
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Carlos, you gotta send the night.
We don't know yet.
Maybe just a random thing.
Uh-huh.
That shouldn't happen.